So if you guys have been paying attention to the mountain biking industry, you'll know that it's kind of going a little bit nuts lately. There are big brands out there that are starting to fold, and there's also big brands out there, in my opinion, are ripping off the beginner mountain biker. That's right, the big brands are making mistakes and they're starting to go under, but they're still at their old antics, ripping off the beginner mountain biker. And I'm here to show you exactly why I think that's the case. So the beginner mountain biker is probably wanting to spend as little as they possibly can and to get into the industry without a piece of junk bike. Well, the big brands seem to not really care. In fact, they're charging astronomical prices for what I consider an entry-level mountain bike. For instance, Big T and Big S have some pretty crazy prices on what I call entry-level spec mountain bikes. Some of them starting around $1,500 for a bike that should be significantly less, and also some of them reaching price points of upwards of $2,400 for a bike that I'm going to show you that comes in roughly around $1,000. There's no way these big brands should be charging as much as they're charging. They're just getting away with it because they've done it for years to the end consumer. Well, there's one brand in the market that has been around for several years, and they made a name for themselves by putting out inexpensive bikes that are high quality. And they're getting better every single year. And that brand is Polygon. I've got two bikes here that are ideal for the beginner mountain biker. In fact, one of them I actually think is going to be good for a beginner or an experienced mountain biker. It just depends on if you're wanting a hardtail mountain bike in your life or if you're just wanting to learn how to ride the trails. Today, I want to take a deep dive into the Xtrada 6 and the Xtrada 7. These are two bikes that come in at such a good value price that they're almost impossible to pass up. So if you're new to mountain bikes and you want to get into mountain biking, or if you're experienced and you're looking for your next hardtail that you want to upgrade, you're going to want to stick around. So we're going to go ahead and hit up one of my local trails and we're going to talk about the differences between the Xtrada 6 and the Xtrada 7. The Xtrada 6 is coming in right around $799 in this brand new colorway, which looks absolutely phenomenal and super stealthy. But the Xtrada 7 comes in at $999, and I want to go over why it might be worth it to spend the extra $200 to upgrade to the Xtrada 7. Because with these two bikes, they definitely stomp some of the competition that's upwards of $1,500 to $2,400. Okay, so I want to start off with the Xtrada 6. This is going to be their entry-level bike, and this bike is absolutely phenomenal. Now, it's not the lowest model in the Xtrada series, and if you're interested in the lower models in the Xtrada series, let me know in the comments below. Maybe I can get bikes online to send those out to me so I can ride all the different Xtrada bikes. But the two that I'm looking at today are the two top of the line models. You're looking at the Xtrada 6 and the Xtrada 7. You're gonna get some really cool features. First, you're gonna get this awesome aluminum frame. Across all of the Xtrada models, the geometry and the frame material is built up the exact same. There's only some unique differences in the Xtrada 7 that we'll go over here in just a few minutes. But the ride quality on this bike is super nice. If you've ever ridden an aluminum hardtail mountain bike, you'll know that it's pretty forgiving. It's not gonna be super jarring and it's gonna be relatively lightweight. And the Xtrada 6 is definitely no exception in this case. Now, it may not be the highest end mountain bike that you're gonna find, but at $799, we just can't expect that. But what we can expect for that price point is we can expect it to beat a lot of the competition in a much higher price category. And how they're actually doing that is they're just stocking it with some really killer components. First off, the one thing that makes this bike super unique is the fact that this comes in multiple sizes and multiple tire sizes. So if you're a shorter rider, you can get a 27.5, but if you're a little bit taller or a medium height rider, you can get a 29-inch version. I personally ride a 29-inch version, and the Xtrada 6 that I'm riding right now is an extra large. I'm 5'11", This one is the maximum that I would get when it comes to the frame size. However, Bikes Online didn't have a large at the time of ordering this, so they sent me an extra large and I've tried it out and it seems to fit me just fine. Now, my preferred size for 5'11" is definitely a large, but when it comes to sizing of a bike, it is totally up to you as the rider. The other cool thing on this bike is the specs of the drivetrain. This is a Shimano Q's 11-speed drivetrain. Now, Shimano Q's is the new entry level, but it's the equivalent of an 11-speed Dior from a few years past. One of the big benefits of this particular drivetrain is not only does it offer 11 speeds and fast shifting, it offers a clutch on the rear derailleur. This is something that you don't always see on entry-level mountain bikes, especially ones that are priced only at $799. What that clutch is going to do for you is keep your bike really quiet going down the trails. And this is super crucial, not only for your riding enjoyment, but also for your frame. Having that chain bounce up and down and slap your frame is definitely not a good thing. Now, if you look at the entire Xtrada line, you'll see that this has a 120mm fork across all their models. Now, on this particular model, it is a hydraulic fork. So you have hydraulic lockout option on it, but you don't have a lot of other adjustments. You do have a little bit of preload adjustment, but with a hydraulic fork, you're just not gonna get a lot of adjustments. I think the ideal weight for a fork like this is somewhere between, say, 150 and 200 pounds. So if you fall in that category, this fork should work really well for you. But the nice thing about the Xtrada lineup is that they have tapered head tubes. So you can upgrade to a brand new style fork down the road if you choose to. That's the biggest benefit of a lot of the Xtrada stuff, is that you can upgrade these and make these bikes even better as you become a better rider. Now, each one of the Xtrada bikes has a port for running a cable to a dropper post. These don't come with dropper posts, but as a beginner rider, you may or may not feel the need to have one. Adding that extra complication whenever you're trying to learn how to ride mountain bikes might be a little bit difficult. But once you get used to it and you decide you want a dropper post, you can simply insert a 27.2 width dropper post into this frame and wire it right up. Now, both the Xtrada 6 and the Xtrada 7 are going to come with the exact same brakes, and these are tanks of brakes. These brakes stop almost any bike that I've ever been on with no problems whatsoever. They're not the highest end brakes, but they're super, super durable. They're the Shimano MT201s. Now, the rotors on this are going to be center lock rotors. These are Shimano specific, so they're dialed in and made specifically for Shimano style hubs. This guarantees that your disc is going to be locked on super tight, and these are 160mm rotors both front and back. Not the biggest rotors, but definitely appropriate for an XC style, light trail style bike. And the Shimano pistons on this are 2 pistons, both front and back, and they're gonna use resin pads. So one of the things you do wanna take note with is the Xtrada 6 comes with quick releases for the wheels. These are gonna be a little bit more old school style axles. Nothing wrong with them, but they're not quite as durable as, say, a through axle. And the other thing to consider on this bike is that it's not going to have tubeless ready rims. Granted, these are Entity rims and they're the X15 rims, which are the same brand and model number that we're going to see on the Xtrada 7, but on the Xtrada 6, these are not going to be tubeless ready. So if you live in an area that has a lot of thorns or anything like that, and you think you might want to go tubeless, well, the Xtrada 7 might be the model for you. But if not, the Xtrada 6 is still a great option to go with. Now let's take a look at the Xtrada 7, which is the top of the line model when it comes to the Xtrada series. The Xtrada 7 comes in at an amazing $999 price point. This thing is absolutely loaded, and it comes with all this stuff for only $999. So on the Xtrada 7, we are gonna go hardcore with this. You're gonna get through axles both front and back. This is gonna make your ride super responsive, and not only that, allows you to update to modern mountain bike wheels if you wanna upgrade to some premium stuff. And speaking of wheels, these are the Entity X15s, but these are tubeless ready. Now, these WTB comp wheels, they are not considered tubeless ready from what I can tell. I get on WTB's website and it does say that they're tubeless ready, but I don't see any indication on the tire. So I went ahead and took off the wheel to see if these were actually tubeless ready, and here's what I found out. Okay guys, it does look like these WTB tires are actually wire bead. So yeah, Not something I'd recommend going tubeless. So if you want to go tubeless, you're going to want to swap these out. But look at this rim. This tape on here is absolutely flawless, so it's completely ready for tubeless. Now, both the Xtrada 6 and the Xtrada 7 come with 2.25-inch wide tires. These aren't massively wide tires. In fact, they're kind of considered a little bit skinny when it comes to mountain biking these days. I consider them more of an XC style tire. So if you plan on getting rowdy with this, you may want to upgrade to something like a 2.3, maybe even a 2.4-inch wide tire. That will give you a ton more grip. I know for me personally, on my Syncline C3 that I had a few years back, I upgraded to 2.4s and it made a huge difference in the ride quality of that particular bike. And the cool thing is the Syncline series shares the exact same frame, but the Xtrada is in aluminum and the Syncline is in carbon. So you should easily be able to fit 2.4-inch wide tires on there if you choose to. Now, we already know that the brakes on the Xtrada 7 are the exact same as the Xtrada 6. But what makes this bike a little bit different is three key components. One was the tubeless ready wheels. Two is the front fork. It shares the same 120 millimeter length. However, this one is an air fork. That's right, so you can actually dial this in to your rider weight and you can set the rebound adjustment on it. There's a lot more adjustability on the Xtrada 7's fork than there is on the Xtrada 6. So if you're worried that you're not going to be able to get the Xtrada 6 to feel exactly like what you want, then the Xtrada 7 is definitely the way to go, because you can dial this in with a simple shock pump and adjusting that rebound. The next big upgrade on the Xtrada 7 over the Xtrada 6 is gonna be this drivetrain. The Shimano Dior drivetrain is so tried and true, it's unbelievable. This is truly known as the tank of drivetrains. This thing is almost unstoppable. With 12 speeds to choose from, up to a 51 tooth, you're gonna be hitting max speed and be able to climb the steepest hills. And also the Dior rear derailleur comes with that clutch built in, similar to what we saw on the Shimano Q's derailleur over on the Xtrada 6. Now, one other big difference between the Xtrada 6 and the Xtrada 7 is the crank arms and the chainring. On the Xtrada 6, you're getting some off-brand crank arms and you're getting a non-removable chainring. But on the Xtrada 7, it comes with this awesome Shimano Dior crank set that has a removable chainring. That's right, if you ever wear it out or damage it, you don't have to replace your entire crank arm. You can simply just replace that chainring. But taking both of these bikes out on the trail, I've got to say, both of them ride extremely well. I was super blown away by how well the Xtrada 6 performed, even though it comes with some features that are a little bit lower end than what the Xtrada 7 comes with. This bike felt right at home out on my trail system, Fellows Lake here in Springfield, Missouri. And for the Xtrada 7, it definitely felt like it was a big jump up, especially with that suspension and those through axles. I could really definitely tell a difference in the responsiveness on how the bike wanted to handle. Now, some of that could have been that I was riding a size large in the Xtrada 7 and a size extra large in the Xtrada 6, but I do feel like having that super smooth front fork and the through axles, both front and back, really did play an important part in how this bike felt overall. And also, I really love the fact that I know that I can upgrade to a tubeless setup without having to spend a ton of money. Having the tubeless ready rims and it already being pre-taped right out of the box really does save me time and money. A couple of things that I think that Polygon nailed right out of the gate is the geometry of this bike. The chainstay length feels really good. The reach feels really good. The 75-degree seat tube angle is perfect for climbing and going fast on those flats. And then not only that, the 67-degree head tube angle has that perfect blend between XC and a trail riding bike. Now, if there was something that I could change on both of these bikes, I would prefer a 180 mil rotor setup instead of this 160. Because if you do have some massive downhill runs that you're wanting to take these bikes on, those brakes are going to heat up. But if you're riding a trail like what I'm riding today, you're definitely not going to have any issues. And when it comes to price point on these, I really don't think Polygon could have nailed it anymore. I honestly feel like if this is one of those other big brands out there, they would be selling these for $1,500 to $2,000, maybe even more, just because they want to slap their name on them, where Polygon doesn't do that. They know you as a consumer needs to get into biking, and the only way to do that is to put out a good bike at a low cost. And then once you get on an Xtrada and you absolutely love it, and you find that Polygon is a truly good value bike, Maybe your next bike will be one of their full suspension models, like the Polygon Siskiyou T8. That's an amazing bike. But guys, I am telling you, these two bikes are absolutely incredible. Coming in under $1,000 for the Xtrada 7 and under $800 for the Xtrada 6, whatever one you go with, you can't go wrong. They're both amazing bikes. But if it was my money, I would definitely try to shell up that extra 200 bucks to get the Xtrada 7 just because of those few extra details. So my word to any of the big brands out there overcharging for their bikes to the people who are trying to get into mountain biking, just stop doing it. You've got brands like Polygon that are absolutely dominating this area. Everything in this world is so expensive right now, but Polygon is sticking to their guns and selling these things at such a good price. And a lot of that has to do with Bikes Online. So I want to give a huge shout out to Bikes Online. I've worked with them over the past several years. And the reason why I like to work with them is because they sell quality bikes at a good price. All right, guys, if you enjoyed this video or you're interested in maybe one of Polygon's full suspension bikes, I have a ton of videos where I've reviewed those over the years. I'm gonna put some links down below, but go over to my homepage and check out my playlist because I have a whole section dedicated to Polygon. And guys, if you enjoyed this, definitely click the like button, click the subscribe button. And if you want to support this channel even more, check out my Patreon, Mike's Unlocked Garage. All right, guys, as always, get out there and ride your bike.
I got you, yeah, SOS, thought you was a threat. I do real life, do no tip for tat on the internet.